A few years ago, most people did not give much thought when it came to seed oils. But now this is a hot topic, with some people recommending to avoid them completely. However, as with most things with healthcare, things are not so black and white. In fact, while there certainly are unhealthy seed oils, there are some that are healthy, just like there are with other types of fats and oils. So let's talk about it. Hey everybody, I'm Dr. David, a board-certified pediatrician in Tampa, Florida. I make these videos to help you raise healthy kids, but also to be healthy for yourself. And so thank you for watching today. And if you do enjoy these videos, please do subscribe. We'd be really appreciate it. We just hit 6,000 subscribers and we want to keep growing. We want to keep sharing this information with people. So of course, please share it with other people as well. Today, we're going to be talking about seed oils. So let's start off with, what are they? Well, as the name implies, they're oils made from seeds. And of course, there are other ways that oils can be made, such as from fruits and what we get from fish or algae, and of course from animal fats, oils, etc. But we're talking mostly about seed oils. So what do we need to know? Well, first, it's important to understand that there are different types of what are called omega fatty acids. There's omega-3, omega-6, and omega-9. And all of them are essential for the body. We need them all. And the reason why they're essential means we can't make them. We may be able to turn an omega-6 to another omega-6 or an omega-3 to another omega-3, but we can't make the category of these omegas on our own. And what it really seems to be boiling down to is the ratio between these different types of omega fatty acids, especially the ratio between omega-6 and omega-3. Now, most people do consume way too much omega-6 fatty acids, and that's where you're hearing about the problem relative to seed oils. But in America, and you've probably heard of what's called the SAD diet or the standard American diet, people can have a ratio of omega-6s to omega-3s. At 16 to 1, 16 parts omega-6 to omega-3. However, it is felt that a healthy ratio is somewhere between a 1-to-1 even ratio of omega-6 to 3, or at most a 4-to-1 ratio with more omega-6s. But the 16-to-1, 18-to-1, 21 that some people are consuming, that is a really big deal. So now, and I'm going to actually try for the first time to do a screen share with you here, so hold tight with me for just a second so that you can see here. So this here, you will see, is a list of the different types of vegetable oils and the different types of omega-3 fatty acids. And you'll see that those in the blue, those are the omega-6 fatty acids. Those are the ones we're trying to minimize. And we'll talk a little bit more about why that is in a little bit. But then you can see the oranges, those are the omega-3s. And the yellows, those are the omega-9s. Now, the omega-9s, as you can see, the highest amounts in oleic acid, which is in olive oil. You will see that avocado oil is not on this list, but has a very similar profile to olive oil. So in general, we do want to have lots of omega-9s, as you can see the way that olive oil is. We want to be low on the omega-6s, as you can see here, which is also for olive oil. But you'll also see, for instance, that safflower oil, that is a seed oil, safflower seeds. A lot of people will use safflower and sunflower interchangeably, but look here. You'll see that the safflower oil is almost the same as what olive oil is. Rather low in the omega-6s, rather high in the omega-9 oleic acids. Whereas, for instance, sunflower oil, the exact opposite. In fact, sunflower oil, this does have the highest amount of the omega-6 fatty acids and much lower of the omega-9s. However, you will also see here that it's not just the actual seed oils that can be problematic with the omega-6s. And in fact, if you look at what the other ones that are highest, it's corn oil and soybean oil and cottonseed oil. So that, of course, is a seed oil. But also even peanut oil, that's pretty high as well. But those, soy, it's a bean, peanut, a legume, corn, that's maize. So it's not really that it's the problem of just seed oils. It's the oils that are high in omega-6 fatty acids. But there are other ones that are also very low, such as what you see here for palm oil and coconut oil. But I also want to point out to how high they are in the saturated fats. And that's the one that it can be also artery clogging and raising cholesterol. So you really need to know what you're talking about when it comes to the different types of omega. So now I'm going to stop this share. There we go. Thank you for taking that little tour with me as we went through it. So as we talked about, And when it comes to omega-3 fatty acids, now that's usually what's found in fish, right? But also it's found in seaweed and found in the algae, and that's what the fish eats to get the omega-3s there in the first place. But also there's hemp seed oil, another seed oil. But hemp oil is not really high in omega-6 fatty acids. In fact, it's mostly an omega-3 as opposed to the 6. So there's a seed oil, that's flax oil, that's really good for you. And also when it comes to the omega-9s, as I said, the olive oil, avocado oil, but so does that mean all omega-6s themselves are bad? And the answer is actually not so, not just for what we're talking about. As I said, some seed oils don't have omega-6s, but not all omega-6s themselves are bad. So first of all, do we need to be avoiding the omega-6s completely? No. In fact, that would not be compatible with life. There are certain things regarding our brain function, our normal growth, development, cardiovascular health, reproductive health do require some omega-6 fatty acids, just not the amount that most Americans are consuming it at, okay? Now, what is the concern, though, with these omega-6? What it is that most omega-6s are of the form called linoleic acid. And linoleic acid then gets converted by the body to arachidonic acid. And arachidonic acid can lead towards inflammation. Now, this can be compounded because there is a gene called FADS1, and its job does convert this linoleic acid to the arachidonic acid, but there are some variants in this gene that make that conversion happen even more, so that there are some people who will make even more inflammation out of those omega-6 linoleic acids than other people. Now, I know I've talked in the past about things like MTHFR, which is a gene that's needed to activate folate, and some people are lacking that or lacking the best form, and they slow their activation. And so there's things that, and so they may be more at risk for certain types of diseases. Well, here it's actually kind of different because the FADS1, that can lead to more production of this arachidonic acid, the inflammation. And so those people would be more at risk, but similar to the methylation and the genomics, nutritional genomics tests that I've talked about before, this FADS1 can also be identified to know whether a person is more at risk for taking the omega-6s into inflammation. And that may help dictate how serious a person needs to take keeping their omega-6s to the lowest amounts that would be feasible. Now, in terms of this ratio, the omega-6 to the omega-3, now, the higher ratios have been associated with greater risk of all-cause mortality, as well as cancer and cardiovascular mortality. That's where it's really important. However, another rub, there is one of the omega-6 fatty acids is called GLA, gamma-linoleic acid. And gamma-linoleic acid actually reduces inflammation. And GLA, it's actually converted to something called DGLA, and that's what actually fights the inflammation. It's been shown to reduce, for instance, nerve pain when it comes to people with diabetic neuropathy. Now, you also do need to have other important nutrients like magnesium and zinc, vitamin C, B3, B6, in order to convert the GLA to DGLA. But you know where the GLA is mostly found? In borage seed oil and in evening primrose oil. Both of them are are seed oils. So again, certain seed oils actually can be used similar to omega-3s, which also reduce inflammation. So that's why this whole thing where people are talking about seed oils being bad overall, that's just not accurate. Now, there are other aspects to the seed oils that are concerning, such as the way that the oils themselves are produced from the seeds. And part of that can be with what we call like the refining of the oil itself. Now, often the seed oils are the oil themselves are extracted from using high heat or chemical solvents like hexane, and that can be bad. And that actually can create trans fatty acids. And so in general, that if those trans fatty acids, they can lead to oxidation in the cells and cause cellular damage. However, that also can be dependent on how high the heat is of the oil when you're cooking it. And when they're used at lower temperatures, it's not nearly the same problem as at high temperatures. And in fact, when a person's cooking with those omega-6 fatty acids, you don't want to make it so it's smoke. In fact, if you think of it, if the oil is smoke, then it's broke. then it is a bad situation, and that's what you also want to be avoiding. Now, also, when it comes to the refining, there are now more and more companies that are being conscientious, and they are refining, the oil in a different way, because they are doing a cold press. Now, a cold press by definition means there's not heat, and so just through pressure, they're able to extract the oil without the solvents as well. So we're getting to a point where even not all seed oils are undergoing that process as well. But of course, it's up to the manufacturer. You can contact the manufacturer and see what their process is in taking those seed oils to it. Now, again, this doesn't mean that we should be consuming more seed oils, and I'm not advocating for that whatsoever. But I'm also recognizing that there are different grades of what the concern should be. And even these omega-6s that may be made in a healthier way still contribute to that ratio that people do want to be lower on. Now, there's a further problem here, because a lot of times these omega-6s, these seed oils of concern, are often found in the most ultra-processed foods. So that's why you have to look at labels. And when you look at labels, and you don't just see is it saturated or unsaturated fat, look to see what type of oil it is. Is it corn oil versus seed oil versus olive oil? What's in the food? It will say it on the label. It has to. All right. So again, it's a lot about the ratio and how they're made, not so much the fact that purely that it's from a seed. So what's my take? Kind of, as I've been saying, people are consuming way too much omega-6 fatty acids, and that is a problem. That's causing a lot of issues. And we need to cut down. And of course, with that, we should be avoiding ultra-processed foods, which will help us cut down. And of course, if people have this FADS1 variant, the single nucleotide polymorphism, they're going to be more at risk. And they got to be more careful about it. So we also want to be increasing our omega-9s. So again, whether it's, especially in olive oil, and especially extra virgin olive oil, because the more presses that olive oil has, there's going to be less of the omega-9s in there. And of course, the avocado oils as well. And as long as we can be lowering and getting to a healthier omega-6 to omega-3 ratio, if you get 4-to-1, 1-to-1 would be great, then that would be really doing you and your family the most when it comes to good health. Oh, well, hope you learned something there, and I hope you have a great day.